In this video, I'm going to present the answer to the question of why Python and R are more popular for data science than other very popular languages like Java. Welcome back, I'm Dennis and I'm a chief data scientist with more than 20 years of experience working in the field. I recently posted a series of shorts that presented some of my favorite data science interview questions that I give to candidates. One of those questions became very popular on Instagram, and I thought that the answer deserved its own video. If you provided an answer on Instagram and your answer was correct, I'm pretty sure I acknowledged you in some way. If I missed your answer, then I apologize ahead of time. But in this video, we're going to go over what the model answer should look like. So, here is the question again. Java is one of the most popular languages in the world, but you don't really hear about it being used for data science. Why is that? Why is it that languages like Python and R are more popular for data science? Again, Java is one of the most popular programming languages in the world, but you don't really hear about it being used for data science. Why is that? Why is it that Python and R are much more popular for data science? If you're enjoying this content, please click on like and follow below. So to get right down to it, the model answer would contain a reference to the vector-based languages. R is a vector-based language. Python, especially when combined with NumPy, acts just like a vector-based language. Java is not a vector-based language. The vectors is what allows you to manipulate large data sets in very quick ways. Whether you're appending data or maybe multiplying data or any other sort of operation, the fact that the vectors are built in natively into the language is what makes R and Python much more effective and much more popular for data science than something like Java. Yes, you can manipulate pieces of data in Java, but it would usually involve a very complicated series of for loops or some other sort of looping through arrays or things like that. That is exactly the problem that vectors address. Now, to give you some background, how do I use this question in interviews? First of all, this is a question that is intended to be a little bit lighthearted and just to kind of lighten the mood in an interview. I don't expect candidates would know this right away, and it certainly wouldn't be a disqualification question in any of my interviews. It's a question that I would typically ask towards the end of an interview, and maybe even drop if we're running short on time. It's not something that's critical for me to know from a candidate. In some cases, the question can serve as a bit of a tiebreaker between two candidates, but it's never really come down to that in my experience. Again, the question is there to make things a little bit more interesting and kind of keep things apart from your standard data science interview. Here are some of the common answers that I hear to this question. And you can see some of these answers if you read some of the responses that I received on the Instagram posting. The first type of answer I hear about interpreted versus compiled languages. And that is factually correct that Java is a compiled language, Python and R are considered to be interpreted languages. But that really wouldn't account for the difference in how they handle data or why they're more popular for data operations. And on top of that, I think that you could make an argument that compiled languages are actually faster than interpreted languages. So it's a factually correct statement to make that distinction between the two languages, but it doesn't really address the core issue of the question as far as the use for data science. If you're enjoying this content, please click on like and follow below. Another response that I hear is about the accessibility or the fewer barriers to entry to be able to use Python and R. And that's certainly true. Python is very accessible. There's plenty of tutorials online, but the same applies for Java. Java has always had fairly low barriers to entry, and they also have their own IDEs that you can easily obtain. Now, I will concede that some of those Java IDEs just aren't very attractive, but there's plenty of people that have learned how to program in Java with free tools like Eclipse or other IDEs that are out there that are still used by companies today. So yes, Python is accessible, but I don't think that makes Java any less accessible or any harder to obtain. I think that both languages are about equally accessible. It's just that Java just really isn't as prominent out there in terms of fancy IDEs or things like that. I also hear responses about Python being less verbose. And again, that is a factually correct answer, but that's only scratching the surface. It's not really getting to the root cause of that. The fact that Python is less verbose is a direct result of the vector operations. It is less verbose because you can do a lot of very complex operations to your data vectors with a simple one or two lines of code. So while that is another factually correct answer, it is describing the end result, not necessarily the cause of why less verbose code is possible. And finally, I do hear a lot of responses about how data frames in Python make data easy to work with. Now, this answer maybe would disqualify you a little bit because it's not a factually correct answer, because data frames are not native to Python. They're actually native to pandas. So I'm not really comfortable with a candidate that would give me this answer, because that doesn't really show an understanding of the differences between Python functions versus library functions. So yes, again, data frames do make data easy to work with, but that is a direct result of the vectors. So even if you were to take this answer, you would still be acknowledging the end result, not necessarily the cause. Data frames are fast and have very simple operations because of the vectors that are driving the code in the background. I hope you found my series on interview questions helpful. I think that it's important to practice these types of questions because it is an increasingly competitive job market out there. I'll see you next time.